In this video, we're going to be talking about variables, types, ID, and objects a little briefly. Now, you will be covering this more in ICS 32 and 33 as you begin to become a little bit more independent. And what I mean by that is that the program you're going to be coding is going to be only by you rather than lab partners or group work. So we're going to talk about the basics of this and why it's important. So on the left side of the equal sign here is variables and identifiers. And this, when Professor Alfaro says this doesn't really have any significance in Python, it is because we can name these whatever we want, and Python doesn't really care, except for a few exceptions. So we can change the name of X to, like, let's say, num of people, then Python will just let it slide. It doesn't matter. So this is only important to us because we're going to be using it for our code. So variables are only used, let's say, to use an if statement. So if the number of people is equal to 5, that's when variables would be really useful. And on the right side, right here, is objects. So all of these variables are pointing towards objects. So here we have an integer, a float, and a string. All of these are objects, and all of these objects have a type. Now in orange, I'm going to write down the type. The type of 5 right here is going to be int. The type of 4.5 over here is going to be a float. And the type of the string 5 is going to be a string. So objects have types, and these are the types. It basically separates them into mini categories that help you do things different. So what is an ID? Now an ID is basically a bunch of numbers that Python uses to memorize what it is. So what I mean by that is 5 will have a unique ID compared to 4.5 and then the string 5. So these all will be different from each other because 1, the type is different, and 2, the value is not even the same. So if we look at the integer 5 right here, and then the string 5, it will have a different ID because Python's like, okay, an integer is different from a string, so they gotta have different IDs. Now, I'm gonna write down things that would have the same ID, which is the number 3 and the number 3 once again. These are exactly the same object because it's the integer 3, so it's gonna point towards that direction. So, to recap, the left side is identifiers and variables. We use that in our programs. The right side of the equal signs, they are all objects right here. And every object has a type and an ID. If you got any more questions, let me know.